Ah, there you are. Hey, all right. But I don't really need these. But just the case became curiosity was greater than vanity, and then yeah, just had to say. Anyway, welcome, one and all to Reiser's Treasure Hunting Emporium's live stream. Yeah, gang, that's right, live stream, and check out, see who's here. Hey, there's Mrs. Hoogie. How are you? Lincoln Central Coins. Hi. Youperdinger. Hello. You are probably frozen. You probably have frostbite already. Holy cow, is it cold up there? Miss Paula, how are you? Mike Badger, hi. Yeah, someone got a haircut. You know, it's kind of like a cross between like Clark Kent and Dagwood Bumstead. Anyway, American Woodland Relics, how are you? Part-time detector. Amy, how are you? And North Jersey detector, hi. Cheapskate Coins, hey, you made it. All right. And have a little bit more about you a little bit later on. Oh, boy. And let's see who else we got here. Metal Detecting Yorkshire. York, how are you? Oh, my goodness. Oh, boy. I'm still jealous of your vacation. Finders Keepers, hi. Oh, there's the Lou D. How are you, Lou? And Willie, how are you, Willie? And I tell you what, the cold is coming this way. Fortunately, I should say, we are not getting it as bad as you guys. Hey, there's Mr. Hoogie. How are you? And South Texas Prepper, hi. The Giant Garrett Detectorist, hello. And I tell you, the gang is rolling all in. Yeoman Gall, how are you? And I see my fellow countrymen there. Yeah, look out, gang, snow. And I tell you, K-Watt, how are you? And anyway, gang, I tell you, welcome to the live stream. That's right, the live stream. And hey, there's Ghost Talk with the Risers. Who let her in? Oh my goodness. And Melee Digger, hello. And I tell you, gang, the gang is all here. Finders, Binders, Metal Detecting saw a wild eagle in the New Jersey Pine Barrens yesterday. Oh wow, awesome. And 2 sugars with my tea, says Yorkshire. Sugar, it's no good for you. Ozarks, how are you? Hey, there's David Carlisle. Hi. And Dickaholic, hey, all right. And anyway, gang. Welcome again. Welcome, like I said, to Rise. Hey, there's Hoosier. How are you, Hoosier? And welcome again, like I said, to Reiser's Treasure Hunting Emporium. Yo, yeah. Treasure, that's right. Get out there and find it, or find new appreciation for treasure you've already found. And hey, there's Ozzy. How are you, Oz? And I tell you, gang, the gang is all here. And I tell you, we got some stuff to look at tonight. I'm awake, Charlie. Hey, all right, good job. And there is no sleeping through. But anyway, gang, especially if you got your earbuds in, right, Lincoln? Anyway, wait a minute. Okay, I'm back. I'm just gonna say I got pizza grease on the like button. Hi, Jersey History Hunters, who's not sharing pizza. Oh my goodness, I tell you. Anyway, gang, I thought I OD'd on pizza the other night, but yeah, I survived. Anyway, gang, welcome to Reiser's Treasure Hunting Emporium's live stream. That's right, gang, live stream. And the only live stream tonight on YouTube at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday that you can see Clad the dinosaur. That's right, gang. If there's one thing that abounds here at Reiser's Treasure Hunting Emporium, it's mascots. That's right, we are in no short supply of mascots. But anyway, gang, tonight we are going to try something new. That's right, we are going to try something a tad off the norm. As if you would expect no less from this channel. But anyway, gang, this is mainly for those folks who have been watching via smartphones. Or I imagine your other phones have it as well. Whenever you should hear Reiser's Treasure Hunting Emporium's toilet paper commercial, I would kindly ask the chat if you folks would flood the chat with the poo emoji. That's right, gang. Whenever you hear Reiser's Treasure Hunting Emporium toilet paper commercial, do flood the chat with the poo emoji. And, you know, it's the smiling poo emoji. And I tell you, someone throw one up in chat if you would. But now, anyway, I tell you, I had a thought about this during Mantic's stream. I probably grossed out Adriana quite a bit the other night with poo, but it's okay. She'll get over it, or therapy or something. But yeah, it will be okay. But anyway, gang, that's right. If somebody, there we go. There's a poo emoji. But anyway, You got it. Well, anyway, in fact, we will try this little happy poo experiment. You know what? We'll do it right now. And so here we go. You ready for the commercial? Here we are. Hey, there's Tin Cup Tin. Friends, have you ever wondered why the poo emoji was smiling? Well, have you ever felt like your poo could smile just a little bit more? Well, gang, there's no time like the present to make your poo gleeful and smiling by getting yourself some Reiser's Treasure Hunting Emporium toilet paper. That's right, gang. It goes wherever you go for when you have to go. So looking for it at your local 5 and dime stores. Anyway, gang, there we got it. And what I do think we are going to try and develop, if it can be done, we are going to give it a whack. But there's different ways to configure the giveaways. And I think what we are going to do is kind of use this formula of doing the giveaways. In order to qualify for the giveaway, you got to have done a poo emoji. Now, that's not going to happen tonight. Rosie will do her normal thing for tonight. But yeah, in the future, if you want to qualify for the giveaway, you've got to have a poo emoji in the commercial during the live stream. And don't tell anybody, but you can actually do it anytime. But it'd be neat just to do it during the commercial. Anyway, gang, before we get started, now I happened to come across a channel on Liz's Sunday live stream, Coffee with Liz. And of course, we try to support one another by, subscribing to one another and etc. And yeah, gang, that's right. I actually do take a look at the folks who I subscribe to, and the different channels that pop in and etc. Anyway, gang, these guys, that's right, GAWs go detecting. And first, let me say, GAW stands for Grumpy Old Gits. And second, let me say, just watch their most recent video. In fact, it's a giveaway video, and GAWs does giveaways, or GOGs does GAWs. Anyway, gang, do check them out. They are very humorous and seem to have a great deal of fun while metal detecting. And that is, I tell you, that's the appeal right there. And good all-around blokes they seem. And I think, I even told someone that they're kind of like the British version of Mike and Wildman. Anyway, gang, do give them a look at. And do subscribe and check them out. You'll be glad you did it. GAWs go detecting. Well, anyway, gang, next week. All right, gang, next week's show is sort of a special, aren't they all? Some kind of special in one sense or another. Anyway, it's a special. I am the gracious recipient of another Chinese coin. And not only a Chinese coin, but a very interesting, complex history pertaining to it. And gang, you've probably already can gauge that the history is more important than the coin itself. And I tell you what, I am extremely excited to delve into it further. And many thanks to Cheapskate Coins for sending it to me. And I tell you what, I'm more tickled about the history that he has included with it than the coin itself. But we'll get more into that next week. Be on the lookout. In fact, if you guys want a sneak peek at it, I wasn't really supposed to open it up ahead of time, but I tell you what, I had a few moments at the desk, and I got kind of, I opened it off the cuff, sort of. And, well, we got some special history involved with this coin, but there's a little sneak peek at it. And to have it underneath the can a little bit better, we'll probably take it out of the holder. But I tell you what, I've never been this excited with the history of a coin for a very long time. And again, many thanks to Cheapskate Coins. You can actually catch his auctions every Monday. And You can also catch them in like Ken PVs and other coin chats and whatnot. But anyway, gang, that's next week. Don't miss it. So anyway, so basically, be prepared. Next week, we're going to take quite a bit of a look at Chinese coins. And by the way, Chinese coins, this is a good place to either start or add to your collection. And they are economically reasonable. You can get a Chinese coin from the 1700s for only a few dollars. So it may be something to look into. I'll just leave it there. Anyway, gang, let's see. Speaking of coins, that's right, upcoming. Oh, boy. We've got the Coin Seminar Weekend. Ken Peavy's Coin Seminar Weekend will be going on February the 15th through the 17th, 2019. I tell you, it should be a great, great weekend with great, great streams, with great, great content, and I tell you, it's always a fun time. And there's also an opportunity for treasure. That's right, treasure. That's right, gang. Some of the channels will be having their own giveaways. But also, too, there is a Coin Seminar Weekend Finale giveaway. Oh, and I tell you what, I've already seen hints of silver. That's right, hints of silver. And to be done actually on that the Monday following the Coin Seminar Weekend. So you got Saturday, Sunday, then bang, Monday. But anyway, gang, do check it out. And I tell you, it's always a good time. And then, gang, on the, February the 19th, we'll be guesting on Flash in Your Pans live stream. That's right, Reiser here, then Reiser there, Reiser everywhere. I don't know. But anyway, Reiser here, Reiser there. Could it be too much Reiser? Or could too much of Reiser be a bad thing? I don't know, gang. That's the question. We will have to find it out on February the 19th. Flash in Your Pan. Do check it out. Then, gang, in March, oh boy, March, it is the National Money Show. It's an ANA show, National Money Show, March the 28th through the 30th. That's right, gang. Reiser will be there the 29th and the 30th, so if you see an old guy with a spiffy haircut, why, just stop him. He'll probably be wearing a skull on his shirt. Just go ahead and stop him and say hello. I tell you what, he'll be glad to know you. And who knows, he may even have some Reiser's Treasure Hunting Emporium toilet paper handy. Besides, it goes wherever you go for, Anyway, ANA National Money Show, March the 28th through the 30th. I tell you what, gang, also, too, for you frugal people out there, I'm frugal, why, it's free. That's right, the admission is free on the 30th. That's right, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's free on the 30th. National Money Show. And we'll get rid of that. Anyway, gang, we'll try and catch up with chat. And, hi, lady, stay warm up there. Oh, my goodness, she is in the frozen tundra as well. Hey, there's Drum. How are you, Drum? Detector S, hello, hello. And I like it how you are organized and share your events. Well, we try. And by the way, speaking of which, if you guys happen to have an event, do feel free to throw it down into the chat. Or as Kay would say, body slam it into the chat. I don't know. Why do females in bars always go for poos in pairs? Is that a riddle? I don't know. Oh my goodness. Hey, there's Adriana. How are you? Oh, boy, hopefully she came in after the poo. Did she come in after the poo?
Not sure.
Oh boy. Sorry, Adriana. Anyway, gang. Hey, there's Flashy. Hey, just talking about you. And Cindy Licious, how are you, Cindy? Oh my goodness. And anyway, welcome, one and all. And Stan. Hello, Stan. Anyway, gang. Oh, shoot. We can't say, oh my goodness, I forgot. We couldn't say dudes. We had to say do-its. I forgot. And that's a kind of that take back to the last live stream. Sarah is making a milky coffee before bed. I know Sandy. She likes to make a coffee milkshake. But anyway, gang, I tell you, Great stuff coming up. Cindelicious says, I have an actual do it. I'm jealous! And what was that? Honey? What was that? I'm sorry, I missed it.
I said I like my milkshake.
Oh, she likes her milkshakes. Coffee-flavored milkshakes. Anyway, gang, all right, well, here we go. Tonight's segment involves history. Yet a bizarre historical segue. That's right, gang. Actually, the segue for tonight's historical bit is actually probably more appropriate on Sandy's channel. But anyway, we're going to do it here. And so anyway, we're going to try and break it up into smaller segments as we go. And yeah, I tell you, it does look gray. I mean, this looks dark because it's kind of wet. But this, yeah, it's like young Charlie, old Charlie, young Charlie, old. Anyway, on this day, January the 29th, 1861, Kansas became the United States 34th state. Yeah, gang, that's right. This date, January the 29th, 1861, Kansas became the United States' 34th state. And I tell you, that is just plumb center in the country right there. And in case you didn't know where Kansas was, that's where you got to go to Missouri to get there. Yeah, okay. And it's just north of Oklahoma. And I think I've driven through it once. I don't remember. Isn't there a interstate that goes from like Amarillo north, and it goes through Oklahoma and Kansas, and I don't know. I don't remember. Or I think it was in Kansas where I hung a right. Anyway, gang, we'll stop giving directions now. 1861, Kansas becoming the 34th state. Its capital is Topeka, and its largest city is Wichita, with its most populated county being Johnson County. Kansas is named after the Kansa Native American tribe, which inhabited the area. The tribe's name is often said to mean people of the South Wind. Although this was probably not the term's original meaning, for thousands of years, what is now Kansas was home to numerous and diverse Native American tribes. Tribes in the eastern part of the state generally lived in villages along the river valleys, and tribes in the western part of the state were semi-nomadic and hunted large herds of bison. Kansas was first settled by European Americans in 1827 with the establishment of Fort Leavenworth. And the pace of settlement accelerated in the 1850s in the midst of political wars over the slavery debate. When it was officially opened to settlement by the U.S. government in 1854 with the Kansas-Nebraska Act, abolitionists, free staters from New England, and pro-slavery settlers from neighboring Missouri rushed to the territory to determine whether Kansas would become a free state or a slave state. Thus, the area was a hotbed of violence and chaos in its early days as these forces collided, and was known as Bleeding Kansas. The abolitionists prevailed, and on January the 29th, 1861, Kansas entered the Union as a free state. After the Civil War, the population of Kansas grew rapidly when waves of immigrants turned the prairie into farmland. By 2015, Kansas was one of the most productive agricultural states, producing high yields of wheat, corn, sorghum, and soybeans. Kansas, which has an area of 82,278 square miles, is the 15th largest state by area and is the 34th most populous of the 50 states, with a population of 2.9 million. Residents of Kansas are called Kansans. Mount Sunflower is Kansas' highest point at 4,041 feet. Now, anyway, gang, I tried to find a picture of the of Mount Sunflower, and it's not what here in the east, or I'm sure you folks in the west. It's not the picture I have in my head of a mountain. It looks I don't know. It kind of looks more like it's in the high plateau. So yeah. just wasn't as dramatic as I was hoping it would be. I was hoping to see like Mount Rainier or something like that. Anyway, now famous people from Kansas, if you guys are ready. Damon Runyon, the author, Langston Hughes, poet, Melissa Etheridge, I'm sure you folks know her, Amelia Earhart, that gal, the gal who wouldn't listen to directions, and in all fairness, I guess she didn't really have anywhere to pull over to find out where she was going. Buster Keaton, that's right, silent era movie comedian. And also too, gang, that's right, also too, hint, hint, this may be the segue, hint, hint, John and Kate Bender, that's right, otherwise known as the Bloody Benders. And yeah, gang, the Bloody Benders. And that's actually going to be our segue for tonight. And if you guys are ready, we're going to roll right into it. The Bloody Benders were a family of serial killers who lived and operated in Labette County, Kansas from 1871 to 1873. The family consisted of John Bender, his wife Elvira Bender, son John Jr., and daughter Kate. While Bender mythology holds that John Jr. and Kate were brother and sister, contemporary newspapers reported that several of the Benders' neighbors had stated that they claimed to be married, possibly a common-law marriage. So they might have been brother and sister, or they might have been married. Well, in certain parts, I know that could be the same thing. Anyway, gang, it is believed that the Benders killed at least a dozen travelers before their crimes were discovered and the family fled. With their fate uncertain, much folklore and legend surrounds the Benders, making it difficult to separate fact from fiction. That's right, gang. Anyway, gang, here we go. All right. 1870s. Kansas, Labette County, to be specific. In May 1871, the body of a man named Jones, doesn't give his first name, just says Jones, who had his skull crushed and his throat cut, was discovered in Drum Creek. And for any future boyfriends of the daughters, just do bear that in mind. Anyway, gang, the owner of the Drum Creek claim was suspected, but no action was taken. In February of 1872, the bodies of two men were found who had the same injuries as Jones. By 1873, reports of missing people who had passed through the area had become so common that travelers began to avoid the trail. The area was already widely known for horse thieves and villains, and vigilance committees often arrested some for the disappearances, only for them to be later released by the authorities. Many honest men under suspicion were also run out of the country or county by these committees. Following the American Civil War, the U.S. government moved the Osage Indians from Labette County, Kansas, to a new Indian territory located in what would eventually become Oklahoma. The newly vacant land was then made available to homesteaders. In October of 1870, 5 families of spiritualists settled in and around the township of Osage in western Labette County, approximately 7 miles northeast of where Cherryvale would be established 7 months later. One of the families was John Bender Sr. and John Bender Jr., who registered 160 acres of land located adjacent to the Great Osage Trail, which was then the only open road for traveling further west. After a cabin, a barn with a corral, and a well built there in the fall of 1871, Elvira Bender and daughter Kate arrived, and the cabin was divided into rooms by a canvas wagon cover. Now, yeah, gang, that canvas wagon cover will actually play a little bigger part in our story in a little bit. The Benders used the smaller room at the rear for living quarters, while the front room was converted into a general store where a few dry goods were sold. The front section also contained the kitchen and dining table where travelers could stop for a meal or even spend the night. Elvira and Kate Bender also planted a 2-acre vegetable garden and apple orchard north of the cabin. And yeah, gang, do also remember that apple orchard. John Bender Sr. was around 60 years old and spoke very little English. When he did speak it, it was so guttural that it was usually unintelligible. According to May 23rd, 1873 edition of the Emporium News, he was identified with the name of William Bender. Elvira Bender, who also allegedly spoke very little English, was 55 years of age and was so unfriendly that her neighbors took to calling her a she-devil. Elvira, she-devil, I don't know. John Bender Jr. was around 25 years old, handsome with auburn hair and a mustache, and spoke English fluently, but with a German accent. John was prone to laughing aimlessly, which led many to consider him a half-wit. Kate Bender, who was around 23, was cultivated and attractive and spoke English well with very little accent. A self-proclaimed healer and psychic, she distributed flyers advertising her supernatural powers and her ability to cure illnesses. She also conducted seances and gave lectures on spiritualism, for which she gained notoriety for advocating free love. Oh dear. Kate's popularity became a large attraction for the Benders Inn. Although the elder Benders kept to themselves, Kate and her brother regularly attended Sunday school in nearby Harmony Grove. The Benders were widely believed to be German immigrants. Only the male Benders, however, were born overseas, and they were not actually a family. No documentation or definitive proof of their relationships to one another or where they were born has ever been found. John Bender Sr. was from either Germany or the Netherlands and is thought by some to have been born John Flickinger. According to contemporary newspapers, Elvira was born Almira Hill Mark in the Adirondack Mountains, which I guess would be New York State. She married Simon Mark, with whom she claimed to have had 12 children. Later, she married William Stephen Griffith. Elvira was suspected of murdering several husbands, but none of these rumors was ever proven. Kate was believed to be Elvira's fifth daughter, born Sarah Eliza Mark. She later married and was known as Sarah Eliza Davis. Based on an inscription in a Bible recovered from the Bender home, it was believed that John Jr. was born John Gephardt, although no other proof of his identity exists. Some of the Bender's neighbors claim that John and Kate were not brother and sister, but, again, husband and wife. Which, again, gang, who knows? Could have been both. In the winter of 1872, George Newton Longcore and his infant daughter, Mary Ann, left Independence, Kansas to resettle in Iowa and were never seen again. In the spring of 1873, Longcore's former neighbor, Dr. William Henry York, went looking for them and questioned homesteaders along the trail. Dr. York reached Fort Scott and on March 9th began the return journey to Independence, but never arrived home. Dr. York had two brothers, Colonel Ed York, living in Fort Scott, and Alexander M. York, a member of the Kansas State Senate from Independence, who, in November 1872, had been instrumental in exposing U.S. Senator Samuel C. Pomeroy's bribery of state legislators in his bid for re-election. Both knew of William's travel plans, and when he failed to return home, an all-out search began for the missing doctor. Colonel York, leading a company of some 50 men, questioned every traveler along the trail and visited all the area homesteads. On March the 28th, 1873, York arrived at the Bender's Inn with a Mr. Johnson, explaining to them that his brother had gone missing and asking if they had seen him. They admitted Dr. York had stayed with them and suggested the possibility that he had run into trouble with Indians. Colonel York agreed that this was possible and remained for dinner. By the way, dinner is never a good idea never a good idea there at the Benders. You'll find out why. On April the 3rd, Colonel York returned to the inn with armed men after being informed that a woman had fled from the inn after being threatened with knives by Elvira Bender. Elvira allegedly could not understand English, while the younger Benders denied the claim. When, for the first time, that her sense of the English language was much better than what was let on. Before York left, Kate asked him to return alone the following Friday night, and she would use her clairvoyant abilities to help him find his brother. The men with York were convinced the Benders and a neighboring family, the Roaches, were guilty and wanted to hang them all, but York insisted that evidence must be found. Around the same time, neighboring communities began to make accusations that the Osage community was responsible for the disappearances, and a meeting was arranged by the Osage Township in the Harmony Grove Schoolhouse. The meeting was attended by 75 locals, including Colonel York and both John Bender Sr. and John Bender Jr. After discussing the disappearances, including that of William York, it was agreed that a search warrant would be obtained to search every homestead between Big Hill Creek and Drum Creek. Despite York's strong suspicions regarding the Benders since his visit several weeks earlier, no one had watched them, and it was not noticed for several days that they had fled. 3 days after the township meeting, Billy Toll was driving cattle past the Bender property when he noticed that the inn was abandoned and the farm animals were unfed. Toll reported the fact to the township trustee, but because of inclement weather, kind of like what you guys got going on now there in the Midwest, the several days had lapsed before the abandonment could be investigated. The township trustee called for volunteers, and several hundred people turned out to form a search party that included Colonel York. When the party arrived at the inn, they found the cabin empty of food, clothing, and personal possessions. A bad odor was noticed and traced to a trap door underneath a bed nailed shut. After opening the trap, the empty room beneath, 6 feet deep and 7 feet square at the top and 3 feet square at the bottom, was found to have clotted blood on the floor. The stone slab floor was broken up with sledgehammers, but no bodies were found, and it was determined that the smell was from blood that had soaked into the soil. The men then physically lifted the cabin and moved it to the side so they could dig under it, but no bodies were found. They then began to probe the ground around the cabin with a metal rod, especially in the disturbed soil of the vegetable garden and orchard, where Dr. York's body was found later that evening, buried face down with his feet barely beneath the surface. The probing continued until midnight, with another 9 suspected grave sites marked before the men were satisfied they had found them all and retired for the night. Digging resumed the following morning. Another 8 bodies were found in 7 of the 9 suspected graves, while 1 was found in the well, along with a number of body parts. All but 1 had their heads bashed with a hammer and their throats cut, and it was reported in newspapers that all had been indecently mutilated. The body of a young girl was found with no injuries sufficient to cause death. It was speculated that she had been strangled or buried alive. A Kansas newspaper reported that the crowd was so incensed after finding the bodies that a friend of the Benders named Brockman, who was among the onlookers, was hung from a beam in the inn until unconscious, revived and interrogated as to what he knew, then hanged again. After the 3rd hanging, they released him, and he staggered home as one who was drunken or deranged. I tell you what, if you hang me 3 times, I'll be deranged anyway. But anyway, of course, I'm probably deranged before hanging, but anyway. A Roman Catholic prayer book was found in the house with notes inside written in German, which were later translated. The text read, Johann Bender, born July 30th, 1848, and John Gebhardt came to America on July 1, 18 something or other. It's got question mark, question mark. And then Big Slaughter Day, January the 8th. And then after that, hell departed. Word of the murders spread quickly, and more than 3,000 people, including reporters from as far away as New York City and Chicago, visited the site. The Bender cabin was destroyed by souvenir hunters who took everything, including the bricks that lined the cellar and the stones lining the well. State Senator Alexander York offered a $1,000 reward for the Bender's family's arrest. On May 17th, Kansas Governor Thomas A. Osborne offered an additional $2,000 reward for the apprehension of all four. Anyway, gang, further, oh my goodness, the killing method. Again, future boyfriends of all the girls, pay attention. It is conjectured that when a guest would stay at the Bender's bed and breakfast inn, the host would give the guest a seat of honor at the table, which was positioned over a trap door that led into the cellar. With the victim's back to the curtain, Kate would distract the guest, while John Bender or his son would come from behind the curtain and strike the guest on the right side of the skull with a hammer. The victim's throat was then cut by one of the women to ensure death. The body was then dropped through the trapdoor, and once in the cellar, the body would be stripped and later buried somewhere on the property, often in the orchard. Although some of the victims had been quite wealthy, others had been carrying little of value on them, and it was surmised that the Benders had killed simply for the sheer thrill. Testimony from people who had stayed at the Benders Inn and had managed to escape before they could be killed appeared to support the presumed execution method of the Benders. William Pickering said that when he had refused to sit near the wagon cloth because of the stains on it. Now this this kind of strikes me funny. You have a blood-stained cloth that's hanging in a room, and you're offered the chair next to it. For God's sake, man, don't sit next to it. You know, at least Pickering here wasn't, anyway. So he refused to sit next to the cloth with the stains on it. But anyway, since he refused, he was threatened with a knife by Kate Bender, whereupon he fled the premises. A Catholic priest claimed to have seen one of the Bender men concealing a large hammer, at which point he became uncomfortable and quickly departed. The two men who had traveled to the inn to experience Kate Bender's psychic powers stayed on for dinner, but had refused to sit at the table next to the cloth, instead preferring to eat their meal at the main shop counter. Kate then became abusive towards them, and a short while later, the two Bender men emerged from behind the cloth. At this point, the customers began to feel uneasy and decided to leave. And, gang, that most certainly saved their lives. More than a dozen bullet holes were found in the roof and sides of the cabin, and the media speculated that some of the victims had attempted to fight back after being hit with the hammer. Now, the escape detectives following wagon tracks discovered the Bender's wagon abandoned with a starving team of horses, with one of the mares lame, just outside the city limits of Thayer. It's about 12 miles north of the inn. It was confirmed that in Thayer, the family had bought tickets on the Leavenworth, Lawrence, and Galveston Railroad for Humboldt. At Chanute, John Jr. and Kate left the train and caught the MK&T train south to the terminus in Red River County, near Denison, Texas. Denison, Texas. I do believe that's where Eisenhower was born. Anyway, from there, they traveled to an outlaw colony thought to be in the border region between Texas and New Mexico. They were not pursued, as lawmen following outlaws into this region often never returned. One detective did claim later that he had traced the pair to the border, where he had found that John Jr. had died of apoplexy, basically stroke. Ma and Pa Bender did not leave the train at Humboldt, but instead continued north to Kansas City, where it is believed they purchased tickets for St. Louis, Missouri. Several groups of vigilantes were formed to search for the Benders. Many stories say that one vigilante group actually caught the Benders and shot all of them but Kate, whom they burned alive. Another group claimed they had caught the Benders and lynched them before throwing their bodies into the Verdigris River. But another claimed to have killed the Benders during a gunfight and buried their bodies on the prairie. No one ever claimed the $3,000 reward, and there's much fiction to delve in here. The story of the Benders' escape spread, and the search continued on and off for the next 50 years. Yeah, gang, that's right. 50 years they were looking for these people. Often, two women traveling together were accused of being Kate Bender and her mother. In 1884, it was reported that John Flickinger had committed suicide in Lake Michigan. Also, in 1884, an elderly man matching Pa Bender's description was arrested in Montana for a murder committed near Salmon, Idaho, where the victim had been killed by a hammer blow to the head. Coincidence, maybe? A message requesting positive identification was sent to Cherryvale, but the suspect severed his foot to escape his leg irons and bled to death. I tell you what, you must really want to get away in order to sever your foot. Anyway, gang, by the time a deputy from Cherryvale arrived, identification was impossible due to decomposition. Despite the lack of identification, the man's skull, that's right, gang, the man's skull was displayed as that of Pa Bender in a Salmon saloon until Prohibition forced the bar's closure in 1920. And, the skull, disappeared. Whether John Flickinger was really John Bender, it is unknown. Several weeks after the discovery of the bodies, Addison Roach and his son-in-law, William Buxton, were arrested as accessories. In total, 12 men of bad repute in general would be arrested, including Brockman. All had been involved in disposing of the victims' stolen goods, with Mitt Cherry, a member of the Vigilance Committee, implicated for forging a letter from one of the victims, informing the man's wife that he had arrived safely at his destination in Illinois. Brockman would be arrested again 23 years later for the rape and murder of his own 18-year-old daughter. Holy cow. I don't know. On October the 31st, 1889, that was Halloween. On October the 31st, 1889, it was reported that a Mrs. Almira Monroe, a.k.a. Mrs. Almira Griffith, and Mrs. Sarah Eliza Davis had been arrested in Niles, Michigan, several weeks earlier for larceny. They were released after being found not guilty, but were then immediately re-arrested for the Bender murders. According to the Pittsburgh Dispatch, the daughter of one of the Bender's victims, Mrs. Frances E. McCann, had reported the pair to authorities in early October after tracking them down. Some nice detective work there, Mrs. McCann. Mrs. McCann's story came from dreams that she had about her father's murder. Oh my God, okay, never mind. Mrs. McCann's story came from dreams about her father's murder, which she discussed with Sarah Eliza. The women's identities were later confirmed by two Osage Township witnesses from a tintype photograph. In mid-October, Deputy Sheriff Leroy Dick All right, gang. That's really his name. Okay, so simmer down. Anyway, Leroy Dick, the Osage Township trustee, who had headed the search of the Bender property, arrived in Michigan and arrested the couple on October 30th, following the release on the larceny charges. Mrs. Monroe resisted at first, declaring that she would not be taken alive, but yeah, she was subdued by local deputies. Mrs. Davis claimed that Mrs. Monroe was Mob Bender, but that she herself was not Kate, but her sister Sarah. She later signed an affidavit to that effect, while Monroe continued to deny the identification and, in turn, accused Sarah Eliza of being the real Kate Bender. Deputy Sheriff Dick, along with Mrs. McCann, escorted the pair to Oswego, Kansas, where 7 members of a 13-member panel confirmed the identification and committed them for trial. Another of Mrs. Monroe's daughters, Mary Gardy, later provided an affidavit claiming that her mother, under the name of Almira Marks, was actually serving 2 years in the Detroit House of Corrections in 1872 for the manslaughter of her daughter-in-law, Emily Mark. Records of the incarceration back up this affidavit. At her hearing, Mrs. Monroe denied any knowledge of Shearer or the manslaughter charge and remained incarcerated with her daughter. Originally scheduled for February 1890, the trial was held over to May. Mrs. Monroe now admitted she had married a Mr. Shearer in 1872 and claimed she had previously denied it, as she did not want the court to know that her name was Shearer at the time and that she had a conviction for manslaughter. You know what? Yeah, the long arm of the law always finds out. So, yeah. Anyway, gang, their attorney also produced a marriage certificate indicating that Mrs. Davis had been married in Michigan in 1872, the time when several of the murders were committed. Eyewitnesses' testimony was given that Mrs. Monroe was indeed Ma Bender. Judge Calvin, however, dismissed Mary Gardy's affidavit as she was a chip off the old block. He found that other affidavits supporting Gardy's statements were sufficient proof that the women could never be convicted. However, he discharged them both. The affidavits and other papers are missing from the file currently in Labette County, so further examination is impossible. A number of researchers question the ready acceptance of the affidavit's authenticity and suggest that the county was unwilling to accept the expense, the expense of boarding the 2 women for an extended period. While the 2 women were certainly criminals and liars, as their own defense attorney admitted, the charges were weak and many people doubted their identification as the Benders. Yeah, gang, that's right. At least a dozen murders or more, all from the fine state of Kansas. So, yeah, gang, be sure your gas tank is full before going through, I don't know. Well, there you have it. And you know what, gang? The Benders, you know, they probably had poo that wasn't smiling, and yeah, they really needed some Reiser's Treasure Hunting Emporium toilet paper. Anyway, hey, there you have it. Well, I tell you a little bit of a morbid story with our history segment this evening. And we'll try and catch up with chat a little bit. And y'all just come down to Texas. All right. Is that the plot of the next Disney movie? Probably. Hey, Riv, how are you? And so basically, we should never go to Kansas. You know, Kansas just hasn't been the same since that whole tornado thing and the house falling on the witch. And yeah, I don't know. Is this an open case still, Charlie? You know, I don't know. Would be neat to find out. Of course, even if they catch them now, I'm sure they're not going nowhere.
granddaughter. Your great granddaughter.
Well, you know, she does threaten to stab people a lot. No, they like hammers. We have to get Kay a hammer.
There's a history on this stuff. There's a documentary on it.
Oh! Well, I'll have to look for it.
They said your story was better than the movie.
I don't know. You know, going over some of the facts of just in the story alone, you know, you really have to decipher what is media sensation and what can actually be taken as facts. And some of it actually, it is heavily blurred. But sometimes you'll read it and go, this doesn't quite make sense. And then you're thinking with a logical mind and not the mind of a psychopath. So once you convert that thinking to the mind of a psychopath, it all makes perfect sense. And also, too, some of the gullibility of certain folks. Yes, please, let this be a lesson well learned. Never sit next to a blood-stained cloth. Yeah, just don't sit there. And if you do see that, don't take another chair, but expedite, you know, very quickly. The movie is called Bloody Benders. I've lost the plot. Can you start again, Charlie? No. How did Charlie go from treasure to murder? Well, it was part of our little history segment. After all, Kansas became a state on this date. And Sandy put... And Sandy put down the hammer. You know, we do have a hammer for home protection here. It's actually hanging above the mantelpiece. It's an antique stonemason handle. Or if any of the kids get out of line, whack. I'm just kidding. Michigan, time to check Amy's genealogy. Oh my God. Oh, I tell you. Anyway, gang, I tell you, a hammer named Remington. Well, that has a hammer on it. Yeah, that's kind of good. Anyway. Anyway, gang, all right. I tell you. See what happens if your poo doesn't have a smile? You can go on to be a psychopath and kill bunches of people in Kansas. All right, gang, time to wake up Rosie and do tonight's giveaway. Tonight's giveaway consists of a packet of Reiser Treasure Hunting Emporium toilet paper. And again, to keep your poo smiling. And Reiser, by the way, is still cleaning off his desk. So who knows what else you might wind up with. And, yeah, a copy of National Geographic or, yeah, or Family Circle. Or you just never know. Hey, that didn't work. Hey, that worked. And hey, look at that. No. Hey, look at that. That's what we want. But anyway, gang, lurkers, look alive. This means you, Amanda. You're there. Oh, anyway. Anyway, lurkers, be sure to get something into the chat so Rosie knows that you are around. I tell you what, strange that robot. Finicky and fickle. I tell you what, she picks the people that trash her one week and then people that kiss up to her the next week. And I don't know. Anyway, you guys know how Rosie operates. And but anyway, gang, do be sure to get something into the chat. And we'll give this a little bit longer, and then we will go ahead and select tonight's winner. And there was a threat of snow here today. All schools were closed, but no snow. David, you must live near where I do. Oh, there's Al. Hey, Al. And you know what, York, you have to watch the live stream a couple of weeks ago. For whatever reason, Rosie just kept picking the people that was trashier. It was quite hysterical, like North Jersey Detector and Lincoln Central Coins. But anyway, gang, here we go. All right, we can count down from 5, and we'll go ahead and select tonight's winner. Got about 8 inches up here so far. Holy cow! I think it's still raining down here in North Jersey. Anyway, gang, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bang. Hey, there you go. Congratulations, Hoogie's Hobby Shop. You are tonight's winner for the giveaway. And see what I tell you. Rosie, she's finicky and fickle. Huh? Anyway, gang. All right, gang. Well, tonight there is no afterglow. And sorry to say, but we're going to probably have an afterglow, probably a special afterglow in the upcoming weeks. Probably, if not next week, the week after. But it'll be a special afterglow. But anyway, gang, there's great programming to watch tonight. You got Flash. I think you probably got Gone Digging going on tonight. And then a little bit later on, I'm sure that Lemonhead Penny will probably be having an auction. And then, gang, later in the week, Thursday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, you got Liz with Off the Cuff, Digging Canuck. And then, gang, on Saturday, you got Mantic Coins at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. And then Sunday, you got Liz again with Coffee with Liz at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then, gang, you've got Sunday night, you've got Ken P. That's right, the big show. That's right, the biggest coin giveaway show on the YouTube. And you don't want to miss it. That's 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Anyway, gang, I tell you, that is all I got for tonight. But I tell you what, gang, we will see you right back here, same channel, same time, Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for another live stream. And we'll try to gross you out again with poo and murder, mayhem, bloodstained cloths, who knows. And bloodstained cloths, that sounds horrible in a way. Anyway, have a great, great week. And as the GOGs go detecting say, may all your finds be gold, silver, and Roman. Anyway, gang, have a great night, and we will catch you guys next week, and we'll catch you around the tube. So, good night. Time for the exiting bit. I actually remembered tonight. Do I get a cookie? I remembered tonight. I remembered the exiting bit. Here we go. Exiting bit. Exiting now. Oh, of course it doesn't exit right.